I am disrupting the system, like just by providing my students with this level of education and providing them with the tools and resources to be anti-racist students in society. I'm doing my part, but something in me, felt like it wasn't enough. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's some levels like, I know it's enough, but at the same time, it's like, your students have to see you front and center too sometimes. Like they can't just see you talk about it. They want to see, they don't want to just see you talk about it, they want to see you walk the walk. And that really
You can catch me later in the morning, out with my whole team, we drink our ass off. I'ma be the one that's chillin', sitting cozy, with the OG vintage snapback on. You can catch me later in the morning, out with my whole team, we drink our ass off. I'ma be the one that's chillin', sitting cozy, with the OG vintage snapback on. Feel good, I look good, yeah, feel good, look good, put it down, man.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 10. Wow, tongue twister already. Episode 10 of Snapbacks and Mimosas. I'm your host, Etinosa Eregie, aka the director of vibes. And if you know me back in college, you know why. And today, I'm honored to have one of my good friends from college, Joseph. He's done so many remarkable things. I'm just going to give you a little highlight. Graduated from U of H from us, so with us, go Cougs. Studied political science, got a minor in African American studies, so he's about that knowledge. And then came all the way up to Austin, got that master's degree in education, and now he's molding young minds here in the public system, being a master teacher for humanities, right?
history.
Yeah. So, yeah. No, without further ado, what's up, Joe? How you doing, man?
What's up? Thank you. That was a good introduction. I appreciate that.
Giving you the roses right now.
You have to, well, not me. You have to give it to other people though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
legends out here. Just thinking about Chadwick, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like, yeah, we have to give people their roses while they're alive.
While they're alive, man, for sure, man. How you holding up with being in the house with COVID? Any fun, interesting things you've been doing?
Well, we're actually back on campus right now, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm back, working with kids. But for the most part, just been trying to stay busy with traveling. With my wife. And I've been getting out a little bit, now I'm still, I got my mask on, and I'm still maintaining social distance, but for the most part, trying to get back into the swing of things, and also be safe. I actually took the COVID test last week, which was very interesting.
Is it like the old style they used to do when they usually like stick it up your nostril? Because I know with all the like rapid cases, now they've found a way to make it like more faster
I
and
wish
less.
they did the old style, whatever.
You
They
was in
stuck
the
down my
hood.
nose. When they did it, I was damn near dead. My wife, she did it first, and she took it, and she was like a champ, so she didn't say nothing. I was like, okay, well,
Oh, you say that?
she was good, so shoot, I'll be all right too. So when they did, I was like, like it felt like it was slowly stabbing me. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you know what? We supposed to be going to Cancun in like 2 weeks. After that, I'm chilling because that test is like, it was like slowly getting stabbed in your heart, like somebody just taking a knife and just slowly like driving it in. Like I'm just like, it's rough.
I can't even risk that one. I can't risk that one, man. Well, yeah, like how I stated, we both went to University of Houston, and we both studied political science. And actually, I didn't even know you minored in African American studies.
I didn't know you minored in African American studies.
That is crazy.
Did you take Dr. Conyers and who else? Malachi Crawford.
Malachi Crawford was my guy. I was always in his office.
I stayed in. I feel like he was like the most down to earth person ever. Like always, like just go in his office, and just talk to him for hours.
Just talk to him. He would talk shit to me too, because for him to, in his mind, I I didn't apply myself as much as I needed to, because like I loved it so much, but I didn't want to like, how would I say it? Like my papers could have been better, but they were good enough to get like.
You got on your ass about your papers?
Yeah, because he knew I could. Because the way I would speak about it in class is not how I would write about it on the papers. You know what I'm saying? And so he's like, I know you know more, because I would do enough to get like the B plus. I should go for the A. If you're listening, kids, go for the A. But go for the A.
I was a nerd. I was in his office just to be. I was in his office to be in there. I actually, did you do Model African Union?
No, I didn't. And that's another thing he got on me for, because he wanted me to do it, and I was like, actually, I was working for the football team, so like I never had time.
Oh yeah.
You know, so like he wanted me to do that. That was another thing he was trying to. He was trying to get me to do that, and he was trying to get me to take the trip to Ghana.
Oh yeah, no.
Yes. Yeah. So, but shout out to Professor Crawford, man. He was
y'all donate to the African American Studies Department at U of H. If you watching this, you went to U of H. Donate to that department. It's real dope, and the people there are like amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
I highly recommend you, if you a new student, minor in African American Studies, like it'll change your life for real.
Especially at U of H, they know what they're doing.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man.
I can even major and minor in the same thing. So
that way.
I had no idea you minored in African American Studies.
Oh man, yeah. The thing is, that first year coming into college, I didn't have a degree like planned. Like I did the whole core thing because I didn't know what I wanted. Because essentially, when I came to college, I was like, I'm going to be a dentist, and that's how you like when you're a kid,
like African.
Yeah, you gotta be a lawyer. You gotta be a. And so ever since I was a kid, I was like, I'm gonna be a dentist. I'm gonna be a dentist. Asked my mom, asked my dad what he wanted. He's gonna say. I don't know why I said dentist. Like there was nothing in my life at that time that said he loves teeth. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it was just I don't know. But I kept that mentality all the way up to college. And I was like, do I really want to be in someone's mouth for the rest of my life?
Oh my God.
No, I don't.
Yeah. I originally when I majored in poli sci because I originally was planning on going to law school.
That's always the plan. That's the
I was like, I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna become a corporate attorney, I'll make all this money, and that's what everybody wanted me to do. They wanted me to my family, like my church was like, you're gonna be a judge, like that was like my pathway according to everybody else. So went down a whole different way.
That's exactly like because like you said, like you could either be a doctor when you're an African or you could be like a lawyer. So like
I'm not African, by the way. My wife is. That's how I know about it. But for me, it was like, oh, you valedictorian. I was a valedictorian in my high school class. So it was like, oh, you valedictorian. You got to be.
You got to be. Yeah.
You got to go to Harvard. Like, my cousin was pushing me to go to Harvard. Oh, you got to go to Harvard. You got to do this. And I got the crazy part is I actually got into Morehouse. I got into Morehouse because I was going to do the Tom Joyner. I was doing I'm not sure if you heard of Tom Joyner. He was, Tom Joyner morning show. You're from Houston,
Yeah. I know Tom Joyner.
I was gonna do the Tom Joyner scholarship. It's supposed to be like a full ride to it, but you have to go to HBCU. So I applied to like Morehouse. I think it was like the only HBCU I applied to because I was like, I wasn't really serious about it. So I applied to the scholarship and I applied to Morehouse. I didn't get the scholarship, but I did get the acceptance to Morehouse, and I also got like a scholarship to Morehouse. But my heart was like set on U of H since I was in 7th grade. For some reason, like my cousin there, I was set on going there, and it was just, it was more personal reasons why I went to U of H. But yeah, no, I kind of like think about the fact that like, I could have went to Morehouse. Why didn't I go? What my life been about? But things happen.
That's funny you say that because like both my parents went to HBCUs. My dad went to Central, which NCCU in Carolina. My mom went to Shaw University in North Carolina. So like now that I look back, I was like, dang, man, like I had like a lineage of like HBCUs. Like should I have gone to HBCU? But like honestly, Houston was like the perfect spot for me. So
people give me crap for going to a PWI instead of you know.
Exactly. But yeah, man. So
We made up for it. We made up for it by minoring in African American studies. So
thank you. See, that's what I'm gonna bring that up next time they throw that in my face.
I'm an African American studies minor, you know.
Yeah. So okay. After you did the whole like, you know, bachelor, like how did you like decide to like, okay, let me switch up and go into, you know, education? Yeah.
So all right. So it's actually kind of a long story, but not really a long story. So yeah, as you know, I went to U of H for poli sci to become a lawyer. I actually my senior year, I believe. Yeah, because I think you started applying for like a law school, grad school, in senior year. So like I took the LSAT. I think I took it in the fall or spring. I can't remember. But took the LSAT. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take I'm going to law school. Took the LSAT. I'm sitting up in this LSAT class. I was actually in the LSAT class too at U of H. If you took this LSAT class at U of H, you probably know what I'm talking about. Dude was very like anti-law school. Like, if you don't want to be a lawyer, don't get into it. You know, it's not the glamorous life you think it is. So he started putting like all these bugs in my ear. I'm like, you know, I'm not.
I hate them people though. I hate them people.
I was like, you know what? I'm not really, you know, I wasn't really enthusiastic about it, you know, but at the same time, like, you know what? This is the path that I feel like God was taking me through. And so that my senior year, I was actually asked to like go and speak at my old school, my alma mater. At the time, my sister was graduating because she was like 3 years below me. And so she was graduating while I was 2 or 3 years. I can't remember how far down she was from me. But she was a senior while I was a senior. While she was a senior in high school, I was a senior at U of H. And so when I went to go speak at the school, you know, like I said, the old counselor asked me to speak there. Went to go speak there. And I just felt, you know, it was like so amazing, like just to be able to talk to young kids, young students about, you know, going to college and how to be successful in college. I don't know. It just felt like it's where I was meant to be. Like being on the campus is where I was meant to be. And so at that moment, I was like, you know what? I think like I feel like God is pulling me to be an educator. You know, because it was just so many different things that lined up. Like my main goal, like from when I even started college, was to come back, like was to get my degree and actually use my degree to help others, because I truly, you know, followed W.E.B. Du Bois's, you know, theory of like talent to talent. I know some people be like, oh, that bougie, you know, some
yeah.
you know, how you follow this white man? I'm just like,
you know, it sound like Booker T. Washington right there, huh?
Yeah, and it's like people get his theory, you know, people can get his theory mixed up for like bourgeois, you know, this bourgeois thought. But it's like, for me, is that, you know, if you get a degree, if you elevate in life, you're supposed to come back and help your fellow people. You know, that's why I took from the talented 10 theory. That's what I took from it. So from when I, you know, that was my main purpose, was to like get my degree and be able to come back and help other people from our community, people from communities similar to the one I grew up in. And so I either was going to do that through law, being a lawyer, or through being an educator. And I really felt like in the end, education was my calling. And so I was looking online for grad school programs, still in the LSAT class, still taking the LSAT, took the LSAT, did pretty okay on it. It was a score enough to get, you know, it was a score good enough to get me into law school because I had a very high GPA, but it wasn't a score enough to give me a, you know, a scholarship. So I was like, if I get, you know, I was still trying to like convince myself, like, you know, if I get a high enough score, you know, I'm gonna go to law school because I'm gonna get a scholarship, because I know law school is very expensive. But at the same time, it was like I actually found this amazing grad program like at UT. And mind you, I never like mentioned this, but I always wanted to go to UT for some reason too. Like I was actually torn my senior year, not always, but senior year of college, high school, I was torn between UT and U of H because I've got into both of them. Because all of my friends, you know, all of the other students with the highest GPAs were going to UT. Like one of my best friends was going there. And so I was really torn at that time when I was in high school, and I chose U of H. So I always wanted to, like, you know, I always regretted kind of going to UT. And so when I found that grad, you know, 4 years later, here I am, you know, in my dorm room, you know, and I see this grad program, you know, it's the UT Urban Teachers Program that focuses on teaching students in urban environment, you know, in urban environment, like providing pre-service teachers like myself, who would have been who was a pre-service teacher, like the tools and resources necessary to be able to teach students in urban communities. Which, like I said, I grew up in an urban community. I want to help students in urban communities. So like, dang, when I read the program description and everything, it was like exactly what I wanted to do. Like, it described everything that I wanted to do. Like, if you want to, like, I didn't have no background in education. It was a preparation. It was a grad program that prepared you, that taught you how to be an educator and how to provide curriculum and instruction to urban students, like what I grew up in. So I went to Gulf Forest High School in Houston, like one of the roughest schools, one of the roughest districts at the time in the state of Texas and in the city of Houston. So when I found that grad program, I was like, oh yeah, this is God telling me, like, you have to go. Like, this is, I was being pushed damn near. It was like, go. So like I said, other things happened too. Like, at the same time, my mom passed away too. In my senior year, it was in October, and she passed away. And I, one of the main reasons why I stayed at U of H, stayed in Houston, was because I knew, my mom was always sick. And so I knew that at some point she was going to pass away. She was going to be sick. So I didn't really want to go too far away from home. And so her passing away in October, like, really made it to where it was easier for me to decide to go to Austin, because transitioning from my hometown to Austin, was a big deal for me. I know people like move from Texas all the way to DC and stuff like that. For me, it was like a huge decision. So her passing away kind of made it like easier for me to say, you know what, I can actually, pack my bags and like move to Austin. So bam, that led me to UT. 2 years later, graduated from UT through all the hard work and struggles and everything. Graduated from UT, and here I am, in my position right now as a teacher.
That's amazing. And I want to like stop the bus right there when you're talking about like that experience at UT, because we live in Austin, and right. we understand that people mean well in Austin.
Yeah,
they have your best interest out there, but the way that you go about that is different in Austin compared to any other place of common sense like Houston. You know what I'm saying? Like, so how was navigating that? Were you the only black man or black female? Like, were you the only black person in your class doing the urban?
I actually had my friend. Actually, a good thing about it, I had a friend at the time that came with me to UT, Etinosa. I'm not sure if I say names to her, but she actually came with me to UT, and we actually, we're in the same grad program. So it's easier. It was an easy position to had a friend that came along with me. And then also there, there was only 3 black people: me, Etinosa, and Jordan. Jordan, we actually, like, when we met, it was like, we clicked that first. We all clicked that first sight. It was like we were only 3 people in this grad program. Like a cohort of 15 people, I think. A cohort of 15 people. It was just us 3 in the grad program. So I did have, there were other black people there. It was just us 3, pretty much.
Yeah,
it was really good that we went through the process together.
And growing up in Houston, being diverse as Houston is, like that transition from going to U of H, which is super diverse, to UT, which is So like, how was handling that transition?
It was rough, because it is a lot of white people in this, compared to U of H. It's like you see so many diverse people. You go to Moody, go to Moody cafeteria, and you see like all these type of people there. Then you go to UT cafeteria, and you only see like, white, a lot of white people. It's very white, mostly white majority school. Like I said, the good thing about it was like meeting my friend, meeting Jordan, because he went to undergrad there, and so he was very connected to the black community at UT. And the black community at UT is very like niche. Like everybody know everybody. Like this dude, I always say this. I always tell him like, everybody, like every black person that go to UT. So it's like it was cool in that regards. But at the same time, I actually experienced racism at UT. You know what I'm saying? Like I experienced racism at U of H. You know, this was the second time. Like at U of H, one experience going up the elevator. At Calhoun Lofts, some dude drunk called me the N-word. You know, straight up. Like he was drunk though. You know, so it was like the other dude was like trying to, usher him away or whatever. I'm like, damn. You know, I'm just on the elevator going to my room, and you calling me the N-word. So that was one experience. But then when I went to UT, kind of the same thing happened. This was a little bit more rough because, I'm just sitting in my car, parked in a parking lot, chilling, not thinking nothing of it. Dude pull up beside me. I guess he couldn't get out. And so in his car, he was calling me the N-word. My friend at the time actually heard him.
Mm-hmm.
She was like very upset, to the point where she was crying, and it was a very hurtful experience because, you literally witnessed somebody just, and it wasn't even a white person that said it. Was I think it was like Arabic or, it definitely wasn't, completely white.
Mm-hmm.
It was an athlete. I think it was an athlete at UT, like a track person that runs track, if I'm not mistaken. But just out of the, just calling, because he parked too close to my car, calling me the N-word. You know what I'm saying? And at that time, I remember I was like dressed up, because I was, like I said, I was coming from my internship, and we have to dress up going to these spaces, and I was like, and I just remember like, dang, like you can be completely dressed up. You can have on a 10-piece suit, here I am at a grad program, I'm thinking that like, oh yeah, I'm it. Like I graduated with 3.8 summa cum laude honors degree at U of H. Here I am with 4.0 at UT, 10-piece suit on, but at the end of the day, still getting called.
It doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, no matter how well you dress it up, no matter how well you dress, people think they're like, oh yeah, if you just dress well and you look professional, you'll be okay. It's like, no, at the end of the day, people see your color. Some people just see you as an N-word, no matter what. So that was a realization for me. It took me experiencing that twice for me to really realize that no matter how far you think you make it in life, if you are a Black person, you will
experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's racism or some level of microaggression at any level of your career.
Mm-hmm.
And I've still experienced even beyond. So
yeah, we continue to experience that regardless. And I was going to say, like, when you were doing this program at UT, like, how were your teachers?
Like the professors?
Yeah, like the professors. Like, were they Black professors?
That was a good thing too. I had mostly Black professors.
Okay.
And they were really Dr. Anthony Brown. He's like one of the most amazing professors I've ever had in my entire life. And so that was one of the things that was, like I said, it was a really great grad program. Outside of, it was kind of like an anomaly compared to like everything else going on at UT. It was a really great grad program. Like I remember one time this was during the time frame that Beyonce came up with Formation. We were up here like dissecting and explicating the Formation video because it came out. So,
yeah.
Like I said, it was a really great, I will say it was a really great grad program. That I can vouch for that grad program. I can't vouch for UT as a whole, but I can vouch for the Urban Teachers Program at UT.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
what I was wondering, because how I was looking at it at one point in my college life, like doing Teach America, which is pretty much kind of like the same thing, where you go to the urban community and they put you there, you stay there for a couple of years, you teach in the inner cities. But like, what's the difference between Teach America and the path that you took?
That's a really good. You asking some really good questions. You really good at this. I don't know. Did you prepare for these? Like you asking questions as if you in the education field yourself. As if you got an inside view. But Teach for America, the difference between Teach for America, and I'm not going to crap on Teach for America and our program, is that this is a 2-year preparation program that we're in, like 2 years intense education program. Teach for America, I think, is like 6 months, and they throw you into a classroom, so it's not, for me, what made me decide to go to a grad program as compared to just doing Teach for America, was that I wanted full preparation. Like I wanted to be fully prepared before I stepped into a classroom, especially if I'm trying, if I want to provide a true quality education to students who grew up like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I really have to make sure that I'm accurately preparing myself. Like I said, Teach for America, good program, but it doesn't, it's not fully. And there's a lot of great teachers that come from Teach for America, but it's not full preparation compared to an actual graduate program.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they try to like throw everything, and they try to give you 6 months. Like I said, I think they give you 6 months, and they try to throw everything at you in 6 months and throw you into a classroom. And to be honest, like some of these teachers are not fully equipped to teach these students. They come in with deficit mindsets,
Mm-hmm.
and they're covering it up as, oh yeah, here I am here to save these students. My grad program, it called for us to really like question our thoughts and our beliefs, and really completely reflect on our biases and our preconceived notions. And we did that constantly. It wasn't like a one-time thing. So that's one thing I am very grateful for. Like I know it was $60,000 that the cost of the program, $6,000 compared to Teach for America, they actually pay for your undergraduate.
Yeah.
But I'm actually grateful that I actually went through that process first before stepping into a classroom. I feel like if I didn't do that, it wouldn't have led to me being where I'm at right now, being able to do what I'm doing right now.
So I'm assuming once you got that degree from UT, like were you set up to transition into the classroom, or like how was that transition into like what you're doing today?
Yeah, it was pretty much that situation. You have to take a certification test. So it really like the good thing about the program is that it sets you up for your certification test, which I took and passed. It took me a while to pass it, but I passed it. Very hard test.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already like, while I was in grad school, I was already like pretty much a long-term substitute teacher, like which means I was pretty much like a full teacher
Mm-hmm.
at Keeling Middle School in Austin, and East Austin. So
on the east side, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I was already like, it's pretty much, it designs it to where it's like you graduate, you go right into teaching. If that's really what you want to do. Like I know some people who did not go into teaching, they went to get another degree, or some people went into like business, which I wasn't expecting that because, say like you're supposed to be like a commitment to teaching students, teaching these group of students. But yeah, I really felt like I like I said, I went into it knowing that I was going to teach for the rest of my life. Like that's what essentially what I plan to do, is like teach until I can't no more.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what you're destined to, that's what you're destined to do. That's what you want to do, then that's what you'll get from that program. That's what you got from that program.
So how was that experience in the classroom? Like once you had your own set of kids, like, other than being like a substitute, these are your kids that you got to mold.
It was, going from, AISD to IDEA, which is the district I teach for now, was a transition. The expectations are higher, at a charter school. They have way higher expectations for their students, and way higher expectations for their teachers. And so like my first year I always tell people it was rough, and I know for some people say like, oh yeah, it's not as rough as it could have been. I know, like, and I agree, like it's not as rough as it could have been, but it was still rough compared to where I'm at now. It was still a rough thing, rough transition. You think that like everything, you're ready and you got it, and you're gonna be the best teacher, and that first year hits you, and it's like, oh yeah, there's so many different things that you have to like actually think about and actually just have prior experience with before you can even deal with it properly. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was, that's what like I said, your first year is not going to, no matter how, you could be prepared, you can feel like you're prepared as much as possible, but when you actually go into a classroom for the first time and you're, that the teacher on record, it's a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what for me, that's how it felt. Like it was a a rough patch I had to get through, especially being the only black male, only black male teacher at the school at the time.
I was gonna actually ask about that. Like, so you said it's a charter school, and charter schools are way different than public schools,
Right.
So how what students are you teaching in these charter schools? Like, are they specifically sent to these charter schools because of their?
That's a huge myth when it comes to charter schools. Like, oh yeah, charter schools get to cherry pick their students. They have that's not true at all. I found that out, like I said, my first year. Like, I used to have this whole negative deficit thought when it came to charter schools. I thought that they were set up and designed to be successful, and that they really didn't have, no business competing against public schools. But when you actually when you actually teaching at a charter school, it's like, oh, I see how they're able to get these scores, because you have to work really hard. But no, yeah, we don't cherry pick students from whatever school we want to. Like, students, it's an actual lottery system. Students apply, they get in, they get in, and we don't just take you don't take a test to get into our school. I know certain charter schools may have a test where you take a test and get in. That's not the case for the district that I work for. Like, we truly accept any and all students. Majority of our students are low socioeconomic students, Black and brown, particularly Latino students at the school that I work for. We even have students who are not even, who are not even American citizens, or whose parents are not even American citizens. And so, very diverse group of students, and very sometimes challenging groups of students too. It's not like we just get students who are just already ready and prepared to be in go to college, or even that are academically inept. We get all different types of students.
And that's what I thought, like, originally. And I guess they have a relationship with UT that they know, or do you have to go find that district that you're looking for? Is it like a pipeline from UT masters to the district?
Well, not necessarily. So my UT program actually probably frowned upon me for even going to a charter school, for teaching at a charter school. So it's not really normal for teachers to go from the UT Urban Teachers Program and teach into a charter school. Usually go from the program and go into Austin ISD school. So I think I think that at some point you probably it was probably frowned upon for me to even go and teach at a charter school, because like I said, there are a lot of people that are anti-charter. So so for me, there's no necessarily pipeline that led me to going into IDEA. The only transition from me going from UT to IDEA was the fact that I had a friend of a friend who's now a friend, close friend, who was a teacher at IDEA. And and like I said, and I also wanted to, at the time, I did not have my teacher certification, so you can't teach at at an Austin ISD school without a teacher certification. And so that led me to applying for charter schools. I was like, oh, I know that you can teach at a charter school without certification. And so that's what, like I said, I applied to IDEA. Not sure why I did that.
Sorry, I'm having trouble understanding right now. Please try a little later.
Okay, dang, chill out. My bad. But yeah, the only thing that led me to, IDEA, the charter school that I work at, is having a friend that was already there.
Okay. And so it's not like you went specifically searched out IDEA, but
No.
that's also a good part of that, because that's a connection though. Like, that's also part of this podcast is about connections, and you got where you're at through a connection. So like, I respect that a lot. So I'm hearing you say that this statement a lot, the deficit thinking. Yeah. Can you explain what that is? Because I think that's interesting.
All right. So deficit thinking is pretty much like having negative perceptions and negative ideas when it comes to whether it's certain groups, organizations, people, That's the term that we learn in grad school, especially when it comes to like urban communities. We sometimes, a lot of times, already have these deficit thoughts when it comes to those communities. Like we think that, oh, the parents don't care about their children, and kids they don't care about their education, and they are the parents are on. We think that people think automatically assume that parents are on drugs or don't. There's no type of assets within those communities that you can utilize. Like there's no educational assets. Which those are deficit thoughts. Once again, it's like having negative perceptions or thinking inferior, thinking that certain groups of people are inferior due to preconceived notions or even just our mainstream society.
And while you were speaking about that earlier, you said you had to deal with your own deficit thoughts that you had. Like, how was that? Because you're coming from a situation where you were one of those kids. So right. was this more of like an inner self, like looking inside and be like, okay, I realized that maybe like I was conditioned to think this way for some reason, and actually coming to grips with that with yourself during that whole process?
I mean, I came to grips with it more or less during undergrad. When I was an undergrad, I had deficit thoughts when it came to my classmates. And when I was in high school, I was I had these we call it ideology of meritocracy. Like I generally thought that like if you do good, you'll be successful. And I thought low of my while I was in high school, because like I said, I was valedictorian, so it was like, here I am, like, hey, I'm pushing, I didn't make any excuses for myself. I grew up completely poor. I got, dealing with all different types of issues within my family, and growing up in poverty. And so like, I never made excuses for myself. And like I said, that led to me graduating number one in my class. Mm-hmm. And that also at the downside led to me looking down on my classmates. And so I had deficit thoughts when it came to my classmates. I was like, if I can do it, you can do it too, not necessarily thinking about the fact that like my particular situation is different from everyone else. There are people out there that are going through way worse and tougher situations than I can ever even imagine. I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. I didn't reflect on that until, undergrad. And I didn't reflect on the larger societal construct of oppression until I went to undergrad and took, did you take Dr. Hughes, Christina Hughes?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Policy. So I took that social policy class. I was like, that social policy class woke my
that was my favorite class. That was my favorite class.
Mine too. I still got my essay on the new Jim Crow. I'm friends with Dr. Hughes shout out to Dr. Christina Hughes. Mm-hmm. I'm still friends with her on Facebook. She is so, was one of the most amazing professors I've ever had. I took every single class she offered. But yeah, it wasn't until I took that class and like actually thought about the fact that like, hey, this is not something that just my, it was only like a small percentage of my classmates went to college. I can count on my fingers how many of my classmates went to college and actually graduated from college. Mm-hmm. And I thought that, like before, I was thinking like, hey, it's because these students didn't work hard. They just were lazy and they didn't care. I didn't think about, it wasn't until I took that class and like my junior year is like, oh, it's because of the fact that lack of educational resources, mm-hmm. racial oppression, systemic oppression that have led to these issues and lack of, the fact that when I would think that like, why do students don't, where's the lack of motivation coming from? It's like, hey, when you having to worry about if your light's going to be on the next day, you know what I'm saying? It's a whole different struggle. So that was a deficit. I had deficit thinking when I was when I was a high school student, but then I had also deficit thinking when it came to charter schools, because like I said, we, throughout, if you probably took classes, we watched Waiting on Superman. I'm not sure if you watched that in your class, but they had us watch that and really question, the construct of charter schools, and and even in graduate school, most liberals, particularly white liberals, are completely against charter schools. And so, like I said, that led to me having, and there are actual issues when it comes to charter schools.
No systems.
There are, just like but there's the same way there's issues when it comes to public schools too, when it comes to ISDs too. So, like I said, my thoughts on charter schools didn't really change. So I actually became a teacher at a charter school, and I realize just, and it really just took me actually getting to know people, getting to know the other people there, and realize like, damn, these people actually work really hard. They work really extremely hard to like get the results that we get. You know what I'm saying? It takes an extra level of work that other schools are not really doing to get the things that we're currently getting. It's not, we're not, it's not because we're picking students that we want and that we know will pass. It's because we actually like have to be on top of it, be times, go harder, go the hardest actually.
And okay, and that's hearing that kind of confirmed what I thought too, because I mean I had friends back in the day that were in charter schools, and I knew their situation. Like already, I had insight to their situation, so I knew it wasn't like you had to be like the greatest or the best at, you know what I'm saying? Not talking shit to their situation. I just know because I know them personally. Talking about your career as a teacher now, how have you grown from that first year to where you are now? Because eventually I want to get into you having a voice within, that school that you're in now.
Really good question once again. Like I said, my first year was rough. I came in having to prove myself, coming in as the only African-American male teacher in a content subject. And I'm not only just the only African-American male teacher, but the only African-American that teaches a actual content. When I say content, I mean like social studies, science, math. And I'm still the only African-American male teacher. Now we're about to have somebody else come in. We finally found another African-American male. I'm glad to be able to have help with that, but we'll talk about that later. But being the only African-American male my first year was, you come in with this feeling, imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong, and feel like you as if everybody else belongs there except for you, and that you only got the shot because of, because of a chance. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I came in with, dealing with, and then having to prove myself to my, to my managers and to my higher ups. They would come in and, question my level of teaching, and question my results. Like, how are you getting these? I was getting high results we would have weekly assessments, district assessments, and I would be getting high results, and they'll be like, how are you getting these results? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not seeing anything special going on. So for me, like what really transitioned to, what really sealed what really like, how do I say this? How I was able to prove myself, which kind of sucks too at the same time, was like we have a final exam. I have to give my students two final exams. I teach 7th grade in the fall, and then I transition to teach 6th grade in the spring. So my 7th grade final exam, which was in the fall, when I gave that, mind you, this exam is blind. That means that I don't know what's on the exam. The students don't know what's on the exam. So it was really no way of somebody could be like, oh, well,
you gave the answers.
I'm giving answer. I'm overlining or anything like that. It really was no way anybody could say that, because it's a blind test. When I gave the exam and I got my results back, and I'm, the highest scoring teacher, one of the highest scoring teachers in the district, it was like, oh, okay. All right, you really are that. I guess you are. You really are that. Like, you that man. So from that point on, it was like I was the, that's how everybody knew, like, hey, that's one of our highest performers, and he's one of our best teachers. Like I said, it still was, even though I was one of the highest performing teachers, and eventually become the highest performing teacher, just this past year was rough, you know what I'm saying, which we can get into later. But it just led to, my first year led to so many, first year was the point that I had to prove myself. Second year was like, okay, here I am with different opportunities presenting themselves, like becoming the course leader, which means like the department, you're pretty much like the department head. Yeah, department head of the, for your subject in the entire district. I'm a regional course leader. I'm the grade team leader, which means I'm over the entire grade level. You know what I'm saying? And getting all these different roles and privileges and different accolades. It was just it just grew from there. It just really made me realize that, like, God really, have his hand on me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just so many blessings just fell in my lap. that I would never even have fathomed. Going from like the person that really was that was introverted and really didn't even believe that I could even become a teacher, and like thinking like how am I gonna be able to teach kids when I can't even barely speak? I don't have no public speaking skills. So like being a actual educator and doing it naturally, it was like I said, it was really just God. I just feel like it was purposeful and it really was meant for me, as a gift from God ultimately.
That's phenomenal. It's just it sucks that you have to, your work didn't speak for itself until later.
Until the data actually,
what I'm saying?
Until data manifested. Like it really just took data. If there were no data anything, no data to really point to my level of expertise, then I probably wouldn't be where I am today. But it really just took having that data, you know what I'm saying? Which is not, it sucks completely. But that's the world that we live in, especially if you're a Black person. Like they really, it's like, hey, you're not really nothing until you have something that shows for it.
Even then, it still could be questioned. But
it's still, no matter what, you can have the highest results in the district for consistently over the past 4 years, which is what I had, and still be, told that, you're not that good of a teacher, or still be made to feel like you're not a good, made to feel like you're not a good teacher, and made to question your abilities, which is what, like I said, which is what I went through this last year. It was a really tough, this last year was a really tough year. And like I said, I'm definitely down to get into that if we like I said, I want to get I'm going to be as transparent and as open as possible on this.
No, I think it's good because, if this whole podcast is about, putting information out there for everybody, and what they take from your words is what they use, to fuel whatever they're going through. So we don't know who's listening to this podcast right now that might be going through the same thing. So whatever you're saying, it's definitely worth it. And so yeah, once you, I guess, you find yourself being established in the career that you want, and you finding some success, and they're putting more work on your plate, do you feel like them putting the work on your plate is the reason, is like a congratulations, here's more work? Or is it, all right, we see what you can do with this, okay, well, how can you handle this situation? It's two different energies there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I saw it as, hey, here's a highly effective teacher, he can handle this. I never thought of having more work, because for me, more work meant more money. You know what I'm saying? The more roles I got, that's another good thing about charter schools, that you get paid for your work. And so I was like, you know what, the more roles I'm given, the more money I'm getting paid. I feel like I'm a very highly paid teacher. I never went into education to make money. I never said, you know what, I'm here to make money. You know what I'm saying? Like if I really wanted to make money, I would have became an attorney. But my career, has led to a lot of, being able to turn into a lucrative career, and be able to have financial stability with this career. And so I can't front on that. At the end of the day, like I am very fortunate to have, the salary that I have right now, because a lot of teachers I know for a fact don't make the amount of money that I currently make. So I can't, I won't front and say like having more roles is a bad thing.
Yeah.
Question.
I can't argue with that one. So what are you currently seeing now, since we are now in times we've never experienced before? So you're teaching. You were teaching from home before, right?
Right.
So how is that? Who is making the protocols? Because it's not like, do you listen to Betsy? Is it Betsy DeVoe? Yeah, DeVoe.
That woman is something else.
Yeah.
No, I don't. We just, it's certain things that we have to do, because of because of the current administration that we have and because of our current state education policies. So, it is what it is. Like we can't, for example, like we can't turn a student away. We can't, there are certain, we can't, a student can come to school one day and not decide to come to school the next day, but come back the next day after that, because that's what the state, our state policy says when it comes to this situation. It just, at first it was a lot of fear, and a lot of shock, the fact that we were, the fact that this government, would send us back to school and send our students back to school in the middle of a pandemic. But now it's like, we're trying to just make the best of what we got, you know what I'm saying? And do the best that we can. And there's been so many foreseeable things. I'm just like, well, let's imagine, right now we're not full scale. We just have like probably half of our students, because half of our students chose not to come. I'm like, what if all of our students decide to come back to school? You know what I'm saying? Which could happen. You know what I'm saying? It won't, that could happen. And it's totally allowable. Like there's nothing to say, hey, you can't, after a certain point, you can't accept no more students. Like, no, the state policy says like any student that want to come to school can come to school, which means all students can come to school. And so like, I'm thinking in my mind, like, dang, what if all of our students decide to come back? Like, there's no way we're going to be able to social distance. Mm-hmm. There's no way we're going to be able to like do crowd control. Like none of that stuff that we're able to do right now wouldn't even happen if all of our students decide to come back. So, you know what I'm saying? It's really, at this point, it's like, you do what you have to do. And for me, it's like, I'm making the call to, I'm risking my life right now. That's what we're doing. We're risking our lives. Just like, everybody, people who are on the front lines right now. Like, I really consider us to be on the front lines too.
Oh, definitely on the front lines. Definitely. How was, before you went into the school, how was it getting a curriculum ready for having class on Zoom and teaching kids that aren't physically there? Because there's different learning styles,
right?
And you can't learn. It's hard to learn in your house
setting, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So like, how was trying to create an environment that can be successful and effective?
For me, I'm very old school, so I'm so used to like being in person. So like this, this distance learning was pretty rough, but at the same time, it was like I'm very fortunate to have I directed a tech camp, so I don't know anything about tech. It was like I got some experience of like, lighting and now for me it's like I think preemptively. Like I always think about like, okay, how can I ensure that my students are successful in this virtual environment? What are some things I need to make sure that I'm doing? And for me, it was just like make sure I, boosting my students' morale, because at this time they're at home and they're not even feeling, being at home. They're tired of being at home, and so a lot of them are not even motivated. You know what I'm saying? So it was really just, for me, it was like, for me, my main thing was like, okay, how do I keep up energy in my class, and how do I ensure that what I'm teaching my students will be accessible to them? You know what I'm saying? I got students who at the time, we had students who didn't even have laptops. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have technology for them. And like I said, it was really just a lot of like, all right, well, we're just doing what we can right now. We're just trying to stay afloat. You know what I'm saying? It was really just like a give and go. But at the same time, it made me realize that like, damn, we really are some hustlers out here, because when they said we going into distance learning, we had like a week to like figure it out. And we figured that shit out as best as we could.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, we did the best that we could in the circumstances that we were provided. And so I really got to get a shout out. If any educators,
shout out to the teachers,
any
for sure.
staff who's on this, listen to this podcast right now, really give a shout out to yourself, because we made this look very easy and it really wasn't. You know what I'm saying? So I really just have to say at the end of the day, like, teachers need a raise. Like, never raise for all the bull crap we have to go through in order to make this somewhat of a success.
Yeah.
But me, like I said, for me, it's really just about what's comfortable for me and how can I ensure that I'm connecting with my students with this content that I'm teaching. Like I said, I teach it. So you have to be able to, you have to be able to invigorate your students and be, animated in some type of ways, or even be exciting. Students have to like see the excitement when it comes to the subject that you
Let
teach.
me get one example of your best what you call it? One of your best lessons that you've done at home. I remember watching your IG stories, and you gotta get the light in the house. So.
Ooh, that's a good one. Let's see. So you want me to just describe it?
Describe it. Yeah. How did the kids take it? Give it a whole nine.
I think one of my best lessons. Oh, I mean, it's hard because I have had like a good couple. But I remember this summer teaching about forms of oppression. Um, I felt so passionate about that, like teaching students about different forms of oppression, like racial oppression, gender oppression, when it sexism, racism, um, being able to like go into depth about that subject was really like it was awesome. Like, students were able to like grasp the material, and even now, like with what I'm teaching now, like I'm able to like talk about how the past affects the present when we talk about the Civil War and slavery, and being able to see students make those connections is like real dope. I had a student today who was able to connect who was able to connect the women's suffrage movement, because that's one of the things that they learned about, to like the treatment of women today, like how women make far less money than men, and how the fact that we had, 2016, we had a presidential candidate who was a woman, and how she was treated as a woman running for president. And the fact that like how we have women who are in higher positions who are down daily because of their higher positions. And so, it's just awesome to really see students like be able to grasp these concepts that I'm able to teach.
History was always one of my favorite, actually the favorite. That was my favorite subject. Because like you said, you can definitely take what happened back then and apply it to what's going on now in some way. And if you don't know your history, you're doing to repeat it. So I always loved history.
I think one of my favorite lessons was when I was teaching students about how enslaved African Americans would get killed or beaten or get their limbs cut if they were to be found to have known how to read.
Mm-hmm.
And like talking about how relating that to today, and how how there are people out there that don't want y'all to get an education. Like they don't want to see you be successful. They don't want you to be smart because they want you to believe that you are inferior. They know that if you are educated, just like those enslaved African Americans that got an education, then you would feel empowered. You would not want, you would fight back. You would protest, which is what we see happening today. We see people protest. We see people fighting. We see people challenging challenging our oppressive
social norms. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that was one of my best lessons, because I was able to like talk about the past and be able to like relate to students' experience and connect it to today and what's currently going on.
And I want to touch on that. Because like you said, you're teaching to mostly small black and brown children, and they have you, an African American male, teaching them these things. Like that's powerful in just imagery, just like seeing that. I know if I had growing up, I don't think I had one black male teacher. I had a couple black female teachers. I don't think I had one black male teacher. But seeing that, like that imagery of okay, I'm learning about these histories of oppression or history of anything, suffrage, women's suffrage, civil rights. It doesn't matter. But like having it taught to me through someone that looks like me, and the power of that.
Yeah, that's something. That's what I utilize. That I utilize the fact that I'm a black male, and I try my best. I try my best to relate to my students as much as I can. and I feel like for me, in order to do that is to be transparent, like be completely myself and be honest. I can't teach this subject without being honest. And that's who I try my best to be, is be honest and be transparent and let my students know, you know, how I really feel. But at the same time, letting them know, like, hey, sometimes my opinions may be biased, and you have to be able to do your own research. Like that's how deep I am with my students, to the point where I'm, telling them, like, hey, we teachers teach from their own perspectives. They teach what they want you to know. And sometimes those perspectives can come from a biased place. Oftentimes, everything has a bias to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's the level of transparency that I am with my students, to let them, reminding them that you have to learn from multiple perspectives, and be able to find which perspective, or how, gain your own perspective when it comes to the things that we're learning. And also at the same time, being honest with the experiences that I went through as a young adult, and as a student at their age. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's been my main thing, is like I always tell people, like, you have to be transparent, you have to be honest, and you have to be willing to be real with your students at the end of the day. Like, they have to know the real you in order to trust
Yeah.
anything that you're saying.
I know we kind of moving along on this show. I wanted to touch on your voice, and how you're using your voice to speak for those kids that are in your classroom. So I saw early in the summer you led a protest for social injustice, for your kids. Yeah. How did that come along, and like what was the result of that?
All right. Well, I'll tell us a quick story. So, as an educator, I always believe that I am disrupting the system by just being an educator and providing a quality education to my students. And not only that, like, teaching the content that I'm teaching them, like at the end of the day, I am disrupting the system. Like, just by providing my students with this level of education and providing them with the tools and resources to be anti-racist students in society, I'm doing my part. But something in me, felt like it wasn't enough. And I mean, it some levels, like, I know it's enough, but at the same time, it's like, your students have to see you front and center too. Sometimes, like, they can't just see you talk about it. They want to see, they don't want to see you talk. They want to see you walk the walk. And that really, like, I was asked to lead the march and speak at the rally. And at first I was like, ain't no way I can do this. Like, I don't know why y'all asked me to do this. I am not a public speaker by any means. Like, I am completely dead as nervous. Like, I was dead nervous to do it. But then at the same time, I was like, I was thinking about my students, you know what I'm saying? I was like thinking about the fact that, and thinking about what just happened, you know what I'm saying? Like, another black man, another black woman getting shot and killed by the police, nothing virtually being done about it. And I was like, I can't sit on the platform that I have and not utilize it to my fullest potential. You know what I'm saying? I have a platform. If this opportunity presented itself, I have to do it. You know what I'm saying? And pray that God just lead the way for me. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, like, we're really just led to is just really just thinking about my students. I had a student one year was like, have you ever been in a protest or march? And I have, you know what I'm saying? Like, at U of H, I have. I even let her march at U of H. I could have easily just been like, oh yeah, I've done that, but it was so far removed. Like, I was like all the way in undergrad. This was like 4 years later. Like, have I been to any protests since then? Have I actually been on the streets marching? Not really. You know what I'm saying? And so it was like, you know what? Like, now is the time more than ever. You know what I'm saying? Now is the time more than ever to, like, actually use your voice and use the platform that you're given, Joseph. And that's exactly what I did. Like, I truly wanted to physically do something other than just sit on my couch and talk about it from my phone and on Instagram and Facebook. Like, yeah, I'm talking about it on Instagram and Facebook. You know what I'm saying? That's good and all, but let's actually go out on the streets and actually do something. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that's really what led to it. Ultimately, like, I was asked to do it. It was the thought, it was presented to me. I prayed about it, and ultimately, God said, "Go, I got you." So that's what I did.
It was beautiful to watch. Like, how was that experience actually going through and marching? because you're the one that had the microphone.
That was nerve-wracking. Like the beginning part. So pretty much the way it was like, oh yeah, everybody, we didn't know how many people was gonna show up. You know what I'm saying? We were like, we'll be happy we get 100. You know what I'm saying? But as the event, as the time went on to the event actually come, it was like, it was way more than 100. We had like 400 people. It felt like it was like a lot of people out there, and I'm like, like I said, I am here. I'm young, I'm young, this young black man. Like, who am I? You know what I'm saying? Like all these, and it wasn't just like regular, it wasn't just like, citizens out there and people out there. It was like principals and superintendents and people from the head, from our district's headquarters. Like the actual executive director of the district is there. Like all these like high name people that I'm like, who am I? Like so here I am starting to question myself again. Like, who am I to be out here leading a protest and speaking at a rally? You know what I'm saying? Like who am I to be doing these things? And so I remember the exact moment. Like I knew that I was going to have to, like, they told me, it was like, hey, all right, so there's going to be like 4 speakers. And at the end of the 4th speaker, you're going to go up and grab the megaphone and just lead the march, lead the people on out and lead them to a march. And I'm like, how am I supposed to do that? Like, I'm supposed to grab my megaphone and just tell people to
let's
march.
Go.
Let's go. Like, let's go, everybody. Let's go 400 people. Like, just follow behind me. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I'm sitting up there like, okay, here go the 3rd speaker. All right, 3rd speaker on. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I know I'm like just so a nervous wreck. And then 4th speaker come, I'm like, okay, they about to end. Like, dang, I'm next. Like, I got to go and grab the megaphone. Like, okay, I'm just thinking about that the whole time. 4th speaker, finished. Here I am. They announced me like, hey, Joe's gonna lead us to the march. And I just immediately grabbed the megaphone. Like, okay, you know what? Let's go. Everybody, and I just said, all right, y'all, no justice, no peace. And I was like, follow me. Like, and it was, like I said, it was like something else just took over me. I was like, that was not me at all. Like, that was not me doing that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we marched all the way from Republic Square to Town Hall. And like, it was like, all right, I got to go and stand on top of some type of platform.
Yeah.
I'm like standing on top of a platform, like up there giving my speech. I'm like I said, it was just a surreal moment, but at the same time, it was like, I kind of like blacked. Like, I feel like I blacked out. It was like, dang, that's not, I'm like I said, I'm an introvert. Like, I mean, people say I'm not an introvert, but I kind of consider myself still an introvert. I'm not that person that's gonna be up in a room like, yeah. Like, being the loudest.
If you were from college, yeah, definitely, yeah.
I'm not that type of person, and so, like I said, I don't know. For me, ultimately, at the end of the day, not to, bring it back to religion, but it was like I just feel like God just, God just took over and led me through like I asked him to do. And I give all the accolades to him. Like, I give it all to him. Like, hey, all of that was, like I said, that was not me operating. That was the Holy Spirit. That was not me at all. Like, that was really just my God just leading me through that.
That's usually how people one thing about this whole times, it's definitely opened our eyes, America's eyes, society's eyes to what's actually happening. But the second thing that's happening is a lot of people are finding their voice in this time. And I think that's another blessing in disguise, is people finding their voice that, they probably didn't think they had, but once you get a call to action, you have to react to that. Like, you have to answer that call.
Yeah.
So like you saying that is like perfect, because I mean that's what I've been seeing, and that's what I felt. It's just like, okay, it was like a call to action.
It was like this old, like I said, my life had just went in this path that I can't really explain. But it was like, it was like that the ultimate moment. It was like, everything just comes into full circle. Like, dang, from this poor black kid and in the hood of Greenspoint and in Southeast Houston to where I am, to leading a protest in March, and being a huge figurehead for the district that I work for. You know what I'm saying? It's just been a huge, an amazing journey, but not a journey to say the least. Like, it was, never was an easy journey. You know what I'm saying? Like I know people think that my journey has always been like this easy pathway, but I'm like, damn, I went through some shit to get to where I am right now. I had to like really struggle, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it was like even then I never like looked at it as a struggle. I just looked at it as, this is what I gotta do to get to the next step. And I'm gonna just pass it and do what I gotta do. You know what I'm saying? And I always remembered that like, if you're a professional out there going through anything, like just remember that there's somebody out there going through, and I always told myself this, even when I was in high school, like there's somebody out there going through something 10 times worse than you, working 10 times harder than you. Like you may think that you going through something worse, but there's somebody out there going through something worse than you going through, and they doing it 10 times better than you are. You know what I'm saying? So no excuses. Like you just gotta get up and go. You know what I'm saying? And do the best you can and give yourself some grace at the end of the day.
That's perfect. I can't say it any better than that, man. That's perfect, and I think that's a perfect place to like wrap up.
You did.
Go ahead. You can pop it right now. Go ahead and pop it right now. You gotta pop it right now, honestly.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to wrap up episode 10. Is you popping the bottle? I was gonna ask you, man. You wasn't thirsty at all, man.
I'm thirsty. I've been talking a lot. Like I've been ready to pop. Hold on, let me see. Yeah.
There you go.
It did got some bubbles in it. Where's yours? Where's your glass at? Don't we?
Oh yeah, I got my glass. You didn't see
I've
been
drinking on yours this whole time.
The whole time.
I thought we were supposed to like pop it. You're supposed to like a celebratory.
That's on me. I got straight into it. But cheers, man.
Cheers. Oh. Are you actually drinking a mimosa right now?
Say that again?
So are you drinking a mimosa right now?
Oh yeah, mimosa all the time, every day. Eventually, I'm gonna get sponsored by some champagne. I told my friends this. My goal, okay, it's not my end goal, but one of my goals is to get sponsored by champagne, so I will never have to buy one.
I see it, man. See it.
You know what I'm saying? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Speak it out there. It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. I'm telling you.
But where can the Brunch Fam follow you? And do you have like any initiative that you're trying to push out there? I can highlight it for you.
Well, as of now, I'm just really pushing for diversity, equity, inclusion in workspace and particularly in education. My goal right now is to push for anti-racist education. I recently did a podcast with Morning Edition, Austin's NPR on KUT. So if you type in Joseph Frilot on Google, something should pop up nowadays. So that's really exciting. But people, you can follow me. Let me see if I know. My Instagram is J Frilot. I'm not really on there. I post my life. Like I said, I'm very transparent. I post a lot sometimes, so it is what it is. But yeah, J Frilot, J Frilot, my last name. It's my Instagram account. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Joseph Frilot is my sorry. I think Joseph Frilot is my handle, so it's not too difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, follow me. That'll be awesome.
Hey, I just want to highlight our guests to make sure that they get the exposure that they need and that they deserve. So I appreciate you taking your time, man, and sharing your story. It was very inspirational to me, at least. And thank you for joining us episode 10. And if you stayed this long and listen to this great story,
if you stayed this long, I really appreciate y'all because
inspiration. Yeah, man, I respect to that. And catch us next time on Snapbacks and Mimosas. Peace.
Y'all have a good night.
Hey, thanks again for watching another episode of Snapbacks and Mimosas. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, even share it. Trying to get it out there. Again, thanks for tuning in.